Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about Kyle Rittenhouse and the lawsuits that, based on what's around in the public domain the last couple of days, the lawsuits he's planning to, or him and the legal team are planning to put out in order to sue those who, in my view, quite unreasonably defamed him. I would hope that he'd, I hope he's successful. I hope he sues the living pajabbas out of all those who defamed him, knowing knowing that what they were saying was untrue, or B, fabricating it just in line with globalist talking point ideology, and there certainly was a lot of that going on. And even after he was declared not guilty in a court of law, that they still were accusing him of all sorts of crimes, and in my view, that's completely unacceptable, and there are laws against that, and I'm sure Kyle Rittenhouse's legal team are aware of those laws and will be applying them, and I hope with maximum vigour, according to the law. Now, is this going to make any difference? I think Mr. Rittenhouse certainly, if you look at after this trial and the carry on, how public it was, and how desperately the globalists wanted to get him, that his employment prospects may not be as promising as some others might have in their lives. So he needs to be aware of that in terms of his financial future. Now, I've got no doubt that he'll do okay out of this, but he's going to need to. He's going to have to do his own business, do his own thing, and the people who normally may have given someone like him a job in small town America, or anywhere for that matter, they may not be so inclined now, or would themselves come under great pressure from activists if they did give him a job. And that's something that we need to be aware of today. Why the police and the Justice Department aren't out vigorously arresting those sort of people is quite beyond me, because they should be arrested. To go after a third party just because you don't like someone they may have employed, or somebody, a GoFundMe thing or anything like that, to go after the third party, and then the third party to go down like a sack of shit, that's just crazy. And there's a lot of it going on today, and for some reason the Justice Department doesn't care about that. And in my view, those sort of activities are flagrant violations of the law. But hey, that's just me. But is it going to make a difference? And this is sort of where I'm going with this. Now, some people are saying, well, sue the crap out of these people, the people who defamed Mr. Rittenhouse, and that'll teach them a lesson, and they won't do it again, and it's now never going to happen to anyone else in the future, and so on and so forth. I don't think that sort of outcome is going to occur at all. If you look at Nick Sandman, he did very well, and the places that had to pay up for him and his legal team are exactly the same folks who went after Kyle Rittenhouse with a vengeance, who didn't give a shit about the facts, and were just sticking to the globalist talking points that he did this, he did that, and across state lines and so on. Nearly all of which was either completely erroneous or miscast. So if you look at it, they're exactly the same people. So what have they learnt from paying up Nick Sandman, the Covington kid? Nothing. They've learnt nothing. They haven't changed their behaviour at all. Now, my view is if they have to pay out handsomely, tens of millions, multiple tens of millions to Kyle Rittenhouse, that's not going to change anything. They'll keep on doing exactly as they're doing, and they're globalist controlled, they're globalist funded. They don't have to produce a commercial profit. They don't need lots of viewers. They're just there to produce propaganda, and they're a loss-making enterprise that's being funded by the globalist cash machine, which is huge, massive, and awash with cash. So even if Kyle Rittenhouse was given hundreds upon hundreds of millions, it wouldn't make a difference. So why do I say that, though? Well, let's have a look at the globalist machine around the world at the moment. And the globalists are spending, a vast billions of dollars on propaganda and to push the globalist project and to get it in the heads of everyone in the West. Um, so you can see why they get a bit frustrated sometimes. We've spent billions upon billions of this, and still we can't get those damn straight white males to be crushed and roll over and like a dog with its legs in the air or something. They must get irritated and frustrated at times. In fact, I'm sure they do. So the way they lash out occasionally, you can sense the irritation. You people aren't even the shit on our shoes, so why should we have to go to this much trouble? So if you look at the amount of money they're spending on propaganda, where it's going, for example, some of the movies, look at all the really super woke movies, particularly where they try and invade an established franchise. It could be Star Wars, Ghostbusters, or whatever. It doesn't matter. I mean, there are lots of them out there. Star Trek and so on. They do it through TV. They do it through the movies. They do it through music, through the newspapers. There isn't an avenue through school lessons, through books. There isn't a single avenue of written or visual or online material that isn't pushed by the globalists. And now the trouble is that no one goes to watch crap like the female Ghostbusters or the female Oceans. Was it Ocean's 8? I think. People don't go and watch that rubbish. They don't like the idea of an established and successful franchise being invaded by woke feminist globalist bullshit. So they don't go and watch it. So these movies lose a lot of money. And if you look at all the Hollywood flops over the last couple of years or so, and there's some more coming up. Amazon's Lord of the Rings looks like it's going to be a howler. So they lose hundreds of millions of dollars on this. The merchandising and the opportunity cost as well. They could have done a different movie and made some money, but they lose handsomely on these movies, TV shows, documentaries, books, and so on. So they're obviously prepared to do that. It doesn't stop them. They don't even stop to draw breath. They just come out with another one, and then another, and then another, and so they just keep on and on going. In fact, every massive failure that costs $1 gazillion, they just double down. For every failure, we'll produce 2 more failures. For every 2, 4, and so on. So that's their determination to implement the globalist project, and they've got the view that success is like the unicorn. It's just around the next corner. We just can't quite see it, but it's just around the next corner, and they keep on throwing money. Same with books. The most ridiculous feminist or race-based nonsense gets put into some books. No one's going to buy those fucking books. They're all put into libraries because the government pays for them. They go into, say, schools and colleges only because the education department is forcing them in there. But no one's buying them out on the commercial market. And there was a radical feminist lesbian in Australia that came out with an absolute load of shit, absolute bullshit in the book. But an NGO, there's a minimum of 5,000 you have to, and an NGO came along and bought the whole 5,000, which they then returned to the publisher for pulping. So this sort of thing is going on all the time. Money for movies. You want to make a movie now, you've got to have a certain amount of what they call minorities. These same requirements don't apply anywhere else in the world, only to white countries. Only white countries must have minorities in black lesbians and the whole transgenders, but only white countries have to do that because it spreads social division, and all the people in those societies then lose confidence in their society, and that's when the globalists just walk in and turn us all into serfs in this neo-feudalistic world that they seem to cherish into the future. But coming back to will substantial payouts to Carl Rittenhouse change? I don't think it will. They've probably already budgeted a few $100 million. They really don't care. That's chump change. When you're looking at the entire Western world with the combined economies of tens of trillions of dollars, then $100 million is just, it's toilet paper to these people. They've got much bigger fish to fry, much bigger objectives in mind. And if they have to flick 100 million here or 50 million there, or take a loss of 100 million on a movie, they don't care. In the bigger picture, it doesn't matter. And by the way, they're being given all sorts of tax breaks and lurks. So effectively, the taxpayer is helping them pay for these losses that they're incurring. So it's not like they're taking pain in their incomes. If you look at the incomes of the salaries and so on of the people that are running loss-making TV studios and cable channels and so on, losing lots of money, and they're still being paid multi-million-dollar paychecks. So clearly, this sort of thing doesn't worry the globalists, and no matter what Kyle Rittenhouse gets paid, and I hope he gets paid a lot, it's not going to change one thing. If anything, they'll look at it and say, okay, well, they won't see it as we've misbehaved, we've done dumb, silly things, we got caught and we've had to pay. We better not behave that way anymore. That's how real people would behave. They're not going to behave that way. They'll look at it as, well, gee, damn, we didn't buy enough judges. We haven't corrupted enough courts. We haven't changed the law. We haven't corrupted the lawmakers to change the law. We haven't been good enough at planting evidence on the crime scene. This is where we have to lift our game. We have to just do better there. So let's double down. Let's make sure this doesn't happen again to us. And that's how they look at it. And I think that's how the story will play out at their end. You've been with Tassus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.